I was going to ask a question that's related to that, and that is, what do you do when you have self-doubt?
I don't have a lot of it at this stage, but I...
Shocking!
I'm being honest, right? I think self-doubt is, instead of self-doubt, I would say questioning. I think it's critical to question, but at certain stages. If you're questioning all the time, you have nothing but fear and doubt, right? You only believe something because you don't question it, right? Someone tells me, oh, so-and-so talk behind your back this, and you go, no, they're my friend, they'd never do that. Your belief, you're certain they're not going to do it, so you don't even entertain it. But if 2 or 3 people tell you that and they go, wow, could John really be doing this behind my back? And you start questioning it. Have you ever done that? You've been upset with somebody, you confront them, and then you find out it's all bullshit, they didn't do anything wrong, and you feel like an idiot. So for me, I think there's a time to question. And so I organize that. When I'm beginning something, I do that. Human beings, when they resolve things, when they make a real resolution inside themselves, which is they raise the standard and they make it a must, they find the way. Think about it in your own life. Haven't you had some area of your life where you raise your standard and your life has never been the same? Maybe at one time in your life you smoked cigarettes, or you did something and you did it for years and you kept trying to change it, and kept telling yourself I should. And then one day something happened. Something just clicked you over. Something took you over that kind of tipping point. And inside yourself you said no more. And it was a very, very different experience, wasn't it? Something inside of you shifted. And what was a should became a must, and you've never gone back. If you look at somebody, Richard Branson, for example, Richard is this giant risk taker, right? But he's got one question. He questions within himself and everyone else. How are we going to protect the downside? It's his number one question. You never believe it. The guy risks his life. When it comes to investments in business, he doesn't risk anything. He told me when he was building Virgin, he's taking on British Airlines, and it's a giant outlay of capital. I mean, this could literally bankrupt him, and everybody said it would. So he said, okay, how to protect the downside. And he negotiated with Boeing for a year and a half and convinced them that if he went out of business, if he was wrong and lost his business in the first 2 years, he could give back all the jets and have no liability whatsoever. So his whole focus is asymmetrical risk reward. How do I take the least risk with the most upside? If I was going to say anything to entrepreneurs in this room, the illusion that you've been taught is that great entrepreneurs take giant risks. It's total bullshit. There are some exceptions that have, and they've gotten lucky. But if you look at the ones that consistently succeed, they know the upside will take care of itself. They focus on how to protect the downside, and they take risk where they know I'm taking a limited risk for an unlimited upside. So if I'm wrong, I'm still okay. When somebody asks me that, I get asked that question a lot. I always ask, well, what do you want? What's the area? But if you're asking me generically for me, one of the books that changed my life in early stages was Man's Search for Meaning. In fact, I'm making the film right now of his movie. We're just getting the script done and moving forward. I worked on it for about 3 years to get the rights. And if you don't know the book, if you're in a tough spot, go read that book. Viktor Frankl was a Viennese Jewish man who got locked up in World War II and watched his family be slayed in front of him in a Nazi concentration camp. But he stayed alive by studying what made certain people live, because you'd lose the will there. It was an unholy place would be the nicest way of describing it, inhuman. And he said that what he noticed was that the people that had a reason, that could find reason even in their suffering, like they're gonna make it through this so they could tell the story so it could never happen again. The famous never again Jewish phrase. He said, those people found a way to survive. The ones that gave up didn't have a compelling future. And I think that's what's missing right now, by the way, for so many people in the middle of COVID. They see no compelling future, and that's why they're overdoing drugs or alcohol, because it's like, I'm out of control. But I learned so much from him and so much from the book that no one can take. They can take your money, they can imprison you, can do everything, but they can't take away your will to find meaning in your life. So I think that's a book, whenever someone's in a tough place, and if I had to recommend one book, another book that you can read in 30 minutes is As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, which really reminds you that you are not just a creature of circumstance, that thought is creative, and that as you think, so you create, so you become, so you experience. You can read it in 30 minutes. Another book, Emerson's Essays. Waldo Emerson, his self-reliance essay is one of my favorites. I've probably read it since I was 17, 100 times. It's just reminding you what you're capable of and not to just drop into group think. It'd be an important book to read at a time like right now. Maybe a more modern book, maybe Untethered Soul, by Michael Singer, who's a good friend of mine, Mickey Singer. A brilliant book that gives you a just different view of spirituality, not religion, but spirituality and how you live your life. That's 4. All right, 5th would be The Fourth Turning. Not a well-written book, but a brilliant book. President Clinton recommended I get the first book that these authors wrote, which was called Generations. It's about an 800-page book, and it goes through 500 years of English and American history. And it shows you that every generation reacts to the way they were brought up, and it changes the culture, just as we're experiencing right now. The rise of the millennial generation and the way they were raised, where everything was at their fingertips, where they expected everything to be available, didn't have to be charged for it. You're gonna charge me for an app? Something that in my generation you'd pay $500 for, they're pissed if you're gonna charge them $5 for it. It should be free. And so it has to do with, there's nothing wrong with a generation, it's just they're brought up differently. They have different expectations, they have different fears, they have different reactions, and how that creates the cycles of history. So Fourth Turning, if you're wondering what's happening right now, I read that book the first time in 1991 when everyone was talking about slowing down and the society's gonna shrink and everyone's gonna simplify their life, which was all bullshit. It worked for about 6 months. And it talked about these cycles, and I found it to be really a great tool for understanding what's happening in society and what to anticipate is gonna happen in the near future.
And success, by the way, is not some overnight event. It's all these little things. Success is having a vision. Success is making it compelling. Success is really seeing it and feeling it every day with strong enough reasons. Success is feeling the sense that I'm here to grow and I'm here to give something to the world more than just myself. All the little stuff. That's where success comes from. In business, it comes from delivering more than anybody could imagine. All those little things add up. People go, wow, that's who I want to do business with. It's true in any area of your life.
Here's the bad news. To a great extent, you can't learn to be humorous. And that alone makes humor different from every other trait we've discussed in this program. There are many examples of people who learned to overcome fear or even downright cowardice, and who went on to become courageous leaders. There are fools who learned to be wise, and there are liars who turned into honest men and women. There are rigid thinkers who learned flexibility. But I personally have never encountered a humorless person who learned to be humorous. And if there were such a person, I'm sure I would have come across one by now, because I have certainly encountered a great many humorless people. Perhaps one reason we respond so strongly to humor in our leaders is because we associate it with honesty. And I think this association is well-founded. Real humor is honest because real humor can't be faked. You can pretend to be serious, just like you can pretend to be intelligent. You can always fake those qualities, and some people do it all the time, but you can't really pretend to be funny. The real irony, however, is that nobody feels like they have to pretend to fake having a good sense of humor, because everybody thinks that they actually have one. People will admit to almost anything before they confess to being humorless. Have you ever met anyone who said, you know, I just don't know how to laugh. I just don't like it when things are funny, and I'm just much more comfortable being serious all the time. I've never met anyone like that, and I am very confident that I never will. In fact, if somebody actually confessed to me that he didn't have any sense of humor, I would think he must be joking.
Hard work, humility, serving your customers, working on your craft, playing the long game, understanding that genius takes decades versus good genetics. The bow too tightly strung is easily broken, says one of the proverbs. Balance is a gorgeous thing. So be monomaniacal in your execution around your high-value targets, your HVTs, your mission plan, but also build in some rewards. And that's going to send a gorgeous message to your conscious and your subconscious. Mind that, hey, this daily practice of execution around my deliverables is a beautiful thing. And you create this thing called momentum. And the monk who sold his Ferrari, I went back and I saw this recently. I think there's a whole chapter on momentum. And you become like this. I love skiing. You start off small, but as you go down the slope, you pick up momentum. A lot of people say, Robin, where do I start? I want to start a new business. I want to become a better artist. I want to find the love of my life. I want to be a world-class creative. I want to multiply my financial life. Where do I start? You just start. You just start. There's great power in the start. And when you start, life starts supporting you.